We're live, Your Worship.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. We'll call this meeting to order. I'll ask if there's any disclosure of pecuniary interest. I am aware of one for Deputy Mayor Bray, item 4.5, community services accounts. There was an amount of $84.75 paid to Grandma's Beach Treats, which is a family business. Is there any other that we know of now? If at some point throughout the meeting you find that you do, please declare it at that time. We have presentation this morning. Marg, and my apologies for your last name, Shaban Edie, will be in attendance to make a presentation to committee pertaining to the issue of affordable housing in the region and to present a report that includes a municipal toolkit. So I will turn the floor over to our presenters, please. Oh, we can't hear you yet. You'll have to unmute.
Good morning.
Oh,
Good morning, and thank you. I'll just grab my screen here. There we go. So thank you, Mayor Bifulci and Deputy Mayor Bray and all members of council for allowing me to present to you today. I don't think it's news to anybody that we have a housing crisis on our hands. We've become almost blind to the word home, and instead we've become addicted to property speculation and growing real estate wealth. Housing is a competitive sport where only those with the highest incomes or assets win. This is simply not good news for our communities and our future sustainability. Whoops. Last year, a group of housing advocates, politicians, and other interested parties decided we wanted to look at the issue in South Georgian Bay in greater depth. We spent 8 months researching, learning, and gathering ideas from all sectors. Our purpose now is to share that learning and spark action in our region that can see us all working together on this complex issue. So how did we get here? Well, since single-family zoning came into Canada around 1920, the world has really changed. We have less than half the number of people living in each house today than we did then. Land was cheap and plentiful. In 1941, there were 2.2 million households in Canada, and today there are over 14 million. A few short decades ago, things like real estate investment trusts, short-term rentals, condominiums, and house flipping were unknown. Housing has changed from being a home to being a commodity as the wealth gap and inequities in housing continue to grow. We simply can no longer absorb the population growth and demographic changes unless we unblock densification and start working collectively to change as the world has changed. We know the issue is scary and complex. When people don't have affordable housing, regardless of their income level, they don't have enough dollars left at the end of each month to eat well. There's not enough disposable dollars to shop local. We can't maintain or grow our labor force. We start to lose our businesses. And all of this is already happening. This really is a problem for everyone in the community and not just those of us who lack affordable housing. It affects everyone. We also know that housing is quite likely going to be the #1 issue in the upcoming municipal elections in the fall. The good news is that you as a municipal council do have a significant role to play and can be part of the solution. We know that a healthy community includes many forms of housing and tenures that meet the needs of residents who may move around through this cycle within the continuum throughout their lives. But despite this, for many years, the focus has almost exclusively been on market rate housing, and in particular, ownership versus purpose-built rentals. The first thing we need to do is understand that term, affordable housing. Affordable means spending no more than 30% of gross household income on shelter costs, including rent or mortgage payments, realty taxes, and utilities, period. Doesn't matter if you make $20,000 a year or $200,000 a year. Affordable housing does not only refer to social housing. It refers to housing that is affordable to every portion of society. Most government initiatives have been focused on increasing housing supply. However, not adding to the supply without attaching affordability metrics won't help solve the problem. Secondly, municipalities often defer to the county to address this issue, but social housing and affordable housing are two different things. Outside of the overarching land use planning, the county has a role as the appointed service manager to address social housing. While this is critically important, it does not speak to complete communities with housing for all. In fact, municipalities can and must play a critical role in ensuring the right supply is built. So the report that you have, it includes all kinds of data, which can be updated soon with the new 2021 census data. But understanding our local reality is where we start. Did you know that right now the median rental rates in our area are $3,000 a month? And that would require an income of $120,000 a year to stay within that 30%. For a one bedroom, a renter would need to earn $37 per hour. According to the 2016 census, over 5,500 households in our area were in core housing need, meaning households that are living in unaffordable, inadequate, or unsuitable housing. That was in 2016, when the median price of a home was less than what it costs today in South Georgian Bay. What might it be now? We know that 4 times as many renter households are in core housing need compared to homeowners. Renters' median gross household incomes are on average only 50% of homeowner families. In 2016, you can see here, the median gross household income in our region was $62,671. But the difference is that owners on average earned over $76,000, whereas renters earned under $40,000. The greatest and most pressing need today is for affordable rental housing if we want to have local sustainable economies. Based on these numbers, a middle income renter family should not be spending more than $995 a month on shelter costs. Today, that's simply impossible in our area without intervention and significant changes in policy direction. We looked at the rate at which we're losing housing stock. A study done in Ottawa last year showed that for every one affordable housing unit that was created, 15 were lost. If we look at South Georgian Bay, we've lost untold numbers of affordable housing units to gentrification, vacancy decontrol, short-term rentals, property sales, and demolitions. Rooming houses have been converted to boutique hotels. Tenants have been displaced when their homes have been sold. And we've seen demolition of affordable units in favor of upscale or supersized homes. While this has been happening, how many affordable units have we created in the region? I would suggest in our area, the ratio is far greater than 15 to 1. So it starts with preserving units we have. While it won't solve the whole problem, municipalities do have tools at their disposal, such as rental replacement bylaws, to help tackle this challenge. Municipalities can and must work with all stakeholders, including other levels of government, developers, philanthropists, the business community, and not-for-profit entities to find innovative solutions. For example, the town can encourage and seed the formation of not-for-profit entities like a land trust that work to remove land from the speculative market and preserve them for the creation of affordable housing in future. Towns can incentivize new unit creation through things such as community improvement plans, municipal capital facilities bylaws, and the inclusion of affordable housing and development charges and our community benefit charges. As I said at the outset, it is a complex issue, and by taking the time to listen, learn, and by reading the report we've provided to you, you can help in bringing the community closer to solving the problem. The report does include a sample toolkit of municipal actions. We recommend that municipalities see the need for affordable housing as a critical priority in strategic planning. For this reason, we envision that each municipality in the region have a dedicated affordable housing committee and ideally a point person on staff to help create and monitor an affordable housing master plan as well in your housing strategy as well. Collecting, analyzing, and utilizing data to identify community needs aids in good decision making and allows for adjustments in the years ahead. It gives opportunities for councils to look at what those needs are, what are the best practices, and what are the options that fit the local community. We envision that if each community in South Georgian Bay had such a committee, there could then be a regional committee with volunteers from each of the surrounding towns and cities to collectively share ideas, best practices, and look for opportunities to work together. Collingwood, the Blue Mountains, and as of this week, Meaford have already done so. We hope you'll agree that the time is urgent and that Wasaga Beach can be an important part of this community. If not now, then when? Thank you.
Thank you for your presentation, Marg. A lot of excellent information is included in the report that was shared with Council. You did mention that it will be an important issue due to an upcoming municipal election. I do really caution people, though, when promises are being made during a municipal election or any election, people need to do their due diligence, because there are people who don't know the rules, don't know legislation, and will make all kinds of promises that are not necessarily realistic or doable. So we rely on our staff here, and I can tell you the town's already got a number of things underway to address our housing issue. I would think it's fair to say every member of council knows that we have an issue. And because of your presentation, rather than just receive it for information today, working with staff, we've got a motion here that I feel does address it, and I'll just read it for council members. Whereas the Committee of the Whole of Council received a presentation from the South Georgian Bay Regional Housing Task Force on June 16, 2022, on its report dealing with affordable housing, and whereas committee recognizes that access to affordable housing, including attainable workforce housing, is an issue in Wasaga Beach and across the province of Ontario, and whereas committee recognizes that even though the provision of affordable, attainable housing is a senior level of government responsibility, the town can assist in tangible ways with the creation of housing for those that work in the community. And whereas the update to the town's official plan is nearing completion and will contain policies to facilitate the development of affordable, attainable housing, and whereas an update to the town's 2012 housing strategy is proposed to be undertaken this year, which will look at issues pertaining to the provision of housing, and whereas the town will commence the process to create a new comprehensive zoning bylaw this year, which will update zoning provisions in keeping with provincial direction, allowing for the creation of more affordable, attainable housing, and whereas the report from the South Georgian Bay Regional Housing Task Force contains a number of recommendations, and whereas during the recent provincial election, it was recognized that the province needs to do more to facilitate the creation of more affordable, attainable housing, be it resolved that Committee of the Whole of Council recommends that Council refer the recommendations from the South Georgian Bay Regional Housing Task Force to staff for review and recommendation. Be it further resolved that the Committee of the Whole of Council recommends to Council that it authorize the Mayor to write a letter to the Premier of Ontario following up on the Premier's commitment during the recent election, requesting the province to examine everything it can to facilitate the creation of more affordable, attainable housing for workers, including releasing unused provincial land, encouraging people to enter skilled trades programs, and the elimination of barriers to development within provincial ministries and agencies. There's a lot in there, but it's something that I think through our planning staff, through the different initiatives that they're working on, we can definitely make an impact on that. I can tell you at the County of Simcoe, I've been the chair and I'm still on the committee of the Affordable Housing Advisory Committee, and there's been several discussions about the need for the province to step up, provide land, and work with the development community to build the housing that we need in our province. So there's a number of initiatives going on, but I think this motion covers things that the town can be working on to make it better across the board. So I'll just look for a mover and seconder. Councillor Watson and Deputy Mayor Bray. And so that's the motion that will be on the floor, but I'll ask if there's any questions or comments of our presenter. Councillor Foster?
Thank you, Your Worship, and thank you, Marg, for the presentation. I haven't seen you in a few years, so it's good to see you again. I just want to reiterate some of the points based on my previous life as a former banker. Gross debt servicing and total debt servicing ratios, which is what Marg was talking about, did make, back when I was a banker, made things difficult for people, and now, given the price of housing, it's even more difficult, and that's across income brackets. Also, I was listening to a report that came out that said right now, 20% of current homeowners are at risk of not being able to afford an increase in interest rates at their next mortgage renewal. This is a really serious situation, and it's not, as you mentioned, not just social housing, it's across the board. And then I also want to point out that this, although it's one aspect, when I sat on the Community Health Center board, again, we talk many times about the multiple determinants of health. Individual health and health of a community, and certainly they identified housing insecurity, food insecurity, which is mentioned here, transit challenges, wages, plus multiple health challenges. So this isn't something that is a silo. It has to be part of, it's all integrated. And so again, although I didn't move or second the motion, I'm certainly going to support it. Thank you, and thank you for the presentation.
Okay, thank you. We've got Councillor Belanger and then Councillor Kinney.
Yes, thank you, Mayor Byfolchi. Just a couple of things. One is you had mentioned the role of not-for-profit corporations, and I know the federal government is about to release a paper that also speaks to that. And certainly I'd like some more information on that. I know that they spend a lot of time accessing funding from the different levels of government and can be quite good at that. The only other thing that I would really like to see added to the motion is you indicated a committee to council related to affordable housing. I know that was in the campaigns of several members of council 4 years ago at the last election, and I believe we should move forward with that. And I think there should also be an element of not just creating affordable housing, but also creating green affordable housing. It's becoming more and more apparent that if we can also improve our environment at the same time, is that it seems to impact our ability to attain funding from the provincial and federal levels. So those are my comments. Thank you.
Okay, Councillor Kinney.
Thank you, Your Worship, and thank you, Marg, for your fantastic presentation. Some of the things that are going through my mind, especially from what I used to do, is how important affordable housing is and food security is when you're looking at overall community safety and health. And we tend not to every day identify it, but I think we should every day identify that we need to work towards helping and looking within our community how we can work together. As Councillor Foster had mentioned, silos. We've got to get rid of those silos, and we have to open our doors, and we have to look where, as members in our community, we can help other members. Thank you, Your Worship.
And Deputy Mayor Bray.
Thank you. So fundamentally, I agree and believe we all deserve to live in dignity. I have recently been appointed to the FCM board, and I know we're now putting in our list of the different committees that we'd like to sit on. So my hope is that I will be on the Housing Committee and that we can affect the change at the federal level that needs to be there to support all levels of government. So look forward to doing more. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Watson.
Thank you, Your Worship. And morning, Marg, and thank you for your presentation. It is a detailed look into the challenges and opportunities of this very complex issue, as you mentioned, and it touches on all levels of government. I sat as a director for many years as our council rep on the Georgian Triangle Housing Resource Center with Gail Mikolenko, where we worked to house and help navigate the system for many in a housing crisis. And I'm currently working with recently retired Reverend Wendy Moore, who I believe sitting right now on your task force, and to help out Wendy where I can with her research project on helping the vulnerable in our community. It's called a Community Engagement Action Plan in conjunction with our ministerial food bank, and Wendy was quite impressed with the amount of work the town has already done. I was able to forward some documentation of where we've been as a community, and she thought we've done a lot so far, and we'll do a lot more. I believe with the province now getting more involved in groups like your task force, effective action can be taken to enhance the construction of attainable, affordable, and workforce housing in our community and throughout the region. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And so again, Marg, all of your recommendations in the report, as well as all of the information, the motion I've read out, we'll have that go back to our staff so that they can review it and come back to council with recommendations. Okay,
Thank you very much for your time today.
thank you. So I've read the motion. All those in favor? And that is carried unanimously. Thank you, Marg.
Thank you.
Also in our agenda, we did have a motion that Committee of the Whole receive the presentation from Marg pertaining to the Regional Look at Affordable Housing Report for information. So if I could have a mover and seconder for that as well. Councillor Kinney and Councillor Wells, all those in favor? And that is carried unanimously. Next, we have a presentation from Scott Thornley and Company with regard to the town's branding strategy. So we will pass that over to our presenters.
Thank you, Mayor Bifulci and members of council. Very happy today to talk to you about the comprehensive brand strategy that we've been working on. Just to set the stage and context, give you some background on the work. We say often a brand is so much more than a logo, and that's definitely the case here. Carmen, if you could pull up the project. This really is why we're here today. We're here to create a comprehensive brand for the municipality that encompasses all aspects of the community and communicates a clear vision for the future to help build citizen pride, investment attraction, and business expansion and retention. I'll bring your attention to build citizen pride, investment attraction, and business expansion retention. This is why we're here. Just some background in terms of the work that we did. We reviewed multiple strategic and other documents provided by the town. We did a competitive analysis of local brand identities, as well as similar communities across Canada and North America. We interviewed members of staff, council, community members. We also conducted a survey that was completed 403 times. Some highlights from the survey suggest that a redeveloped brand for Wasaga Beach should be rooted in the core positive associations currently held by respondents: natural beauty, outdoors, family, and community, as well as the aspirational and positively oriented surprising elements such as friendliness and a vibrant community with many attractive amenities, events, and activities. So what do we do with all this information, our research, the survey, our many interviews? We tabled multiple ideas for consideration by the town of Wasaga Beach in the form of theme boards. These theme boards enabled us to have a very engaging conversation about how we want to tell the story. Do we want to tell the story like this? Do we want to tell the story like that? We're able to show different potential logos that we could explore and creative approaches, looks and feels, and language. Of the 6 that we tabled, 3 of the themes clearly bubbled to the top and were the most desired. So this idea that Wasaga Beach is a young, vibrant, and diverse community, the great outdoors of Wasaga Beach, and finally, thriving community. These 3 themes were essentially the creative brief for our team. With these insights and this information, we were then able to explore the different creative approaches that we could take. Carmen?
And how that actually comes to life is that these are kind of, think of it as the ingredients that we're using as part of the brand. So we want to make sure that some aspects of these themes somehow make their way into the brand, not necessarily all in one place, i.e. right in the logo, but in some way, shape or form. So diving into the creative. Briefly, I want to talk about the colors. This is a new color palette for the logo. The palette is very closely married to both the wayfinding strategy palette as well as the tourism brand, so that you have seamless color continuity across all of those aspects. Color psychology is very important, so I want to briefly speak about that. What do some of these colors mean? So blue is serene, it's calming, it's relaxing, it's associated with open spaces and freedom, also stands for trust and loyalty, brings to mind water and sky. So those are all things that you would associate with Wasaga Beach. Green is universally associated with nature, symbol for health, renewal and growth. And yellow is sunshine and happiness. It's cheerful and bright. And it's also associated with enlightenment. So you see, just by way of color choice, we're already communicating some aspects about the town without overtly going into it. Some of our inspiration, we're inspired by waves, we're inspired by the geography of the area, so beautiful sweep of the bay, as well as this idea of flowing ribbons. The logo, we've learned in many of our discussions and engagement sessions that nature really is like such an integral part of the town, and we really can't in any way disassociate ourselves from it. So we're jumping on that and really bringing nature forward in this new logo. So the bay, the river, the beach, the forests, and all their associated activities. So in the icon itself, so that's the little graphic element of the logo, the shapes, which are the water and the curvature of the bay, are kind of bring to mind shapes of letters W and B. So we're creating a very unique but yet very authentic icon for the town. Again, bringing some of these other ideas to light. The word mark itself, so the words Wasaga Beach, it's a slab font, and we have specifically chosen that one to really increase accessibility of the town logo. So the slab serifs, which are those little feet that you see on all the letters, they're really thick and enhanced, help with readability, as well as upper and lower settings. So we're very conscious to make it as accessible as possible. Altogether, we're creating a flowing forward. It's a very friendly, open, vibrant, and active logo brand. And just getting back to some of those things that you heard Marsh mention earlier. So, you know, the survey talked about friendliness and vibrant community. So we're trying to bring that to life in the logo. And how does that actually manifest itself? So by way of website, for example, outstanding outdoor activities in a location that offers you access to the best of small town and urban living, thrive in a community of friendly, welcoming people. Who says you have to settle for less? All in Wasaga Beach. This could be the stationery. We're picking up, again, the icon and creating different shapes. You almost have a sense of flowing water at the bottom there. This could be some ads, festivals, all in, business, all in. Again, going back to our vision for the future, business retention and expansion is one of the aspects, as well as creating a vibrant community for our citizens. This could be the fleet. Some signage around town. The e-newsletter, different way of interpreting that icon in the background. The social feed, again, we can cover off many different areas of things we want to communicate. Parks, all in. Community, all in. Recreation, all in. You really see how those nature colors come together. And the fun stuff, swag. I always say, you know, create sustainable bags and let others carry our brand out into the world. Here are some examples on how we can do that. Thank you.
Okay, thank you both. I will open it up for questions or comments. Councillor Foster.
Thank you, Your Worship, and thank you for the presentation. I will admit that's not my favorite of the designs that was there, but I understand, you know, the background behind it is solid, and so I have just a couple comments. One is, you know, we've tried to do some rebranding of different things at the time, and we had a spark which fizzled. So I like, although again, not my favorite design, but the concept of all in, I think whatever we're doing, and we're paying money to get this done, I think it needs to be across the board and very, you know, very clear what our logo, what our design is. So, and that part I'm all in. I do like, again, the fact that you know, you're dealing with three in your logo. You deal with three major environmental pieces: the water, of course, the sand, and the green space, which I think has been somewhat underrepresented in the past. And then finally, on the color palette stuff, I'm not trained professional like you guys, but I do listen to Terry O'Reilly, Age of Persuasion. And I love his program that he had on the psychology of color in advertising, and that's exactly what you guys have hit on the head. So while it's not my favorite, I commend your thing, and I will support it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Deputy Mayor Bray.
Thank you. I actually do like it. I think it's fresh and creative, nice to see. My question would be how we can tie it to events and facilities, recreation, public works. And I know you've shown it on the side of a truck, but typically, you know, they all have a town jacket or a town t-shirt. And with the County of Simcoe, the colors are solid and the corporate logo is blue and gold, and then all of the departments underneath have their own logo, but it's using the same color palette, it's using the same. So I'm not sure if you will be advising us through that stage, or if this logo will replace all logos. Because I think the tourism logo with the spark is still valid. I just wanted to mention that. Thank you.
And just for clarity, we do have a motion. This will be going back to staff for further review, but Marcia or Carmen, can you answer Deputy Mayor Bray's question?
Yes, through you, Your Worship. We are, as part of the next step, would be then the development of a style guide. And in that style guide, both guidelines around how it plays together with the tourism brand, as well as all the different departments, sub-brands, how they're being treated, that will all be defined and worked out in the next step.
Thank you. I think that's really important. I know the library is going through rebranding, and I think it really does need to tie in. So thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else? Councillor Belanger.
Thank you, Mayor Byfolchi. Yeah, it was sort of tied for my first choice. I like two of the concepts that you put forward, but I'm very excited about that. Just a couple of things is when you did your presentation, the one with the actual photography, where we saw the sand and the forest and the waves, I think that would look great on our town hall as opposed to just the solid colors. But one of the questions I have is, you know, how we prioritize going forward. But one of the things that are very visible in our community is our streetlight banners. And they're quite worn, and I think this would be a huge improvement to do quickly. But I think and this is probably part of the strategy we haven't heard, but I think there's a role that the community can play in tying in to the color palette, into the logo. Certainly businesses have their own logo, but the more it can be more prevalent within the town, and I've seen it happen in other communities where it can just put us on the map that much more quickly. So I don't I don't know if that's part of the strategy going forward or not, but I think there's an opportunity there. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions, comments? No? Okay, thank you both. I will read the motion that Committee of the Whole receive the presentation from Scott Thornley and Company, Inc. pertaining to the Town of Wasaga Beach Comprehensive Branding Strategy for Information, and further that the proposed platform be referred back to staff for review and recommendation. Can I have a mover and seconder, please? Councillor Belanger and Councillor Foster. Any further discussion? All those in favor? And that is carried unanimously. Thank you both for being here today and your presentation.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Moving on, we have a motion that Committee of the Whole receive the Comprehensive Branding Strategy Next Steps Report dated June 16th, 2022 for information. A mover and seconder, please. Councillor Kinney and Councillor Belanger. Any discussion? All those in favor? And that is carried. Motion from Director of Finance and Treasurer that Committee of the Whole recommend to Council that it receive the January to April 2022 financial report for information. A mover and seconder, please. Councillor Wells, Councillor Foster, any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? And that is carried. Next is a motion from Bylaw that Committee of the Whole recommends to Council that it receive the Municipal Law Enforcement Department's monthly activity report for the month of May 2022 for information. A mover and seconder. Councillor Kinney, Councillor Belanger. Any discussion? Councillor Kinney?
Thank you, Your Worship. Reading the report, I'm happy to see that there's more identified for proactive and reactive. I didn't crunch the numbers on that, but it's a noticeable increase. And I think that's important for the community to realize that, yeah, you could see town trucks going around. It's not that they're not paying attention. It's just that in the world of enforcement, you've got to gather the right information, even when you're doing it proactively. Thank you, Your Worship.
And that's a very good point. I think far too often, if people don't see action the very next day or that afternoon, they think that nothing is happening, and that certainly is not the case. So thank you for pointing that out. Councillor Belanger?
Thank you, Mayor Byfolchi. Yes, I'd like to congratulate Rachel and her team. I made some comments at a previous meeting, and I can tell you that there has been huge proactive action, and a lot of those things were addressed. In conversation, it was said that we had one full-time property standards officer, and I was just going to make the recommendation because it was asked that, you know, when we see something that we, you know, send in the address and identify it. But I would just also recommend that those bylaw officers that are primarily looking at parking offenses and those types of things, that if they also see something, they don't have to necessarily follow up, but if they could let the one individual responsible know the address and a brief description of the issue, I think that would also be helpful. Thank you.
Any other comments? Okay, I've read the motion. All those in favor? Oh, and that is carried. Sorry, Dina, did you want to speak to that? Sorry, I didn't see your hand go up.
That's okay. Thank you, Your Worship. Just to clarify that all bylaw officers do have a part of property standards as part of their position. Even our full-time officers have a percentage of their job description that is for property standards and have occurrences assigned to them under the guidance of our property standards officer. So most of them do, and they do report proactives as well.
Okay, thank you. Item 4.4, Director Building and Development Services and Chief Building Officials Report. The motion reads that committee recommend to council that it approve an unbudgeted expenditure of approximately $22,000 plus benefits, which is approximately 15% from the Building General Reserve for 2 building intern positions for the September to December 2022 co-op term per details outlined in the staff report. And further, that committee recommend to council that it approve an unbudgeted expenditure of approximately $24,000 from in-year surplus, if available, or the Building and Recreation General Reserve, if required, for renovations within the building department to accommodate the event staff moving into the facility, And further, that committee recommend to council that it approve an unbudgeted expenditure of approximately $45,000 for the hiring of a firm to complete digitalization of records, repurposing the contract wage budget line item to fund this initiative. Can I have a mover and seconder, please? Councillor Belanger, Councillor Foster, is there any discussion? Councillor Kinney?
Thank you, Your Worship. I particularly like the concept about the co-op students. I really see that by getting in young talent, we as employers are virtually developing new future staff with the hope of it, knowing that both in planning and building and probably other aspects of our town businesses, there is lacking good, solid talent out there just because of the nature of the beach and society as a whole. Thank you, Your Worship.
And Deputy Mayor Bray.
Thank you. And for me, I was excited to see kind of a proactive approach to catching up with the digitalization. I know it's a huge project, and I know they've been chipping away at it, but they probably weren't seeing much progress because the department itself is so busy. So I think it's a great way to get some help over an 8-week period and get it done rather than drag us down for years. So well done.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Belanger?
Yes, thank you, Mayor Byfolchi. Just for clarification to the public, and if Danny's on the line, he can jump in and maybe provide more detail. But when we say unbudgeted, this department generates a lot of revenue, and my understanding, given how busy we are in the development world in Wasaga Beach these days, that there has been some significant surplus, and my understanding is that the reserve, to the greatest extent, has to be reinvested into the department. I'm not positive of that, but I just want the public to know that I believe we have been exceeding expectation on revenue, and that although it's unbudgeted, this would be easily covered in the reserves that you're generating.
Mr. Rogers?
Thank you, Your Worship, and through you to Councillor Belanger. That is correct. We've been contributing to our reserve yearly now for a couple of years. And the reserve is there strictly for use by the building department. And, projects such as the one that we've identified here today fit squarely within the intent of having a reserve. Yes, there's plenty of money in the reserve to cover this. And it really, this initiative really moves the department ahead in terms of, many of our established priorities. So we're pretty excited to commence with it.
Okay, thank you for that. Councillor Foster?
Yeah, Your Worship, Councillor Belanger covered most of what I was going to say. And again, it's not a matter of we're doing better. We've been setting records. It's not even close to what it was previously. And the other part with the digitization is if you look back on projects that have been done actually mainly since Mr. Rogers has been on board, it's also looking over historical stuff that could have fallen through the cracks. So digitization is going to ensure that everything's up to date and there is no leakage of revenue from files, just kind of going into limbo somewhere. So it's money well spent. So thank you.
Okay, thank you. Seeing nothing else, all those in favor? And that is carried. Thank you, Danny. And moving on to community services accounts, I believe this is the one Deputy Mayor Bray has declared a conflict on. The motion reads, resolved that community services section departmental accounts for the months of April 1st to 30th, 2022 and May 1st to 31st, 2022, as reviewed by the committee of the whole, are hereby confirmed. If I could have a mover and seconder. Councillor Foster, Councillor Wells, any discussion? All those in favor? And that is carried. Thank you. Welcome back, Deputy Mayor. Public Works accounts, resolved that Public Works section departmental accounts for the months of April 1st to 30th, 2022 and May 1st to 31st, 2022, as reviewed by the Committee of the Whole, are hereby confirmed. If I could have a mover and seconder. Councillor Watson, Councillor Kinney. Any discussion? All those in favor? And that is carried. Development Services section, resolve that Development Services section department accounts for the months of April 1st to 30th, 2022, and May 1st to 31st, 2022, as reviewed by the Committee of the Whole, are hereby confirmed. Mover and seconder, please. Councillor Wells, Councillor Kinney. Any discussion? All those in favor? And that is carried. General Government, resolved that the General Government Services Section Department accounts for the months of April 1st to 30th, 2022, and May 1st to 31st, 2022, as reviewed by the Committee of the Whole, are hereby confirmed. A mover and seconder, Councillor Watson and Deputy Mayor Bray. Any discussion? All those in favor? And that is carried. Next is correspondence with regard to the MCR, and the motion reads that Committee of the Whole received the correspondence dated June 3rd, 2022 from the County of Simcoe pertaining to Simcoe MCR update for information, and further that this correspondence be referred to staff for review and recommendation. And the Deputy Mayor and CAO and I do have a meeting today with regard to the MCR as County Council representatives, and something that we need, it's important for our community, so we need to have that input. Mover and seconder, Councillor Watson, Councillor Kinney. Any discussion? All those in favor? And that is carried. Correspondence to be referred. That Committee of the Whole received the letter dated June 7th, 2022 from the Simcoe-Muskoka District Health Unit pertaining to residential pool rentals for information, and further that this correspondence be referred to staff for review. If I can have a mover and seconder, please. Deputy Mayor Bray and Councillor Kinney. Any discussion? All those in favor? And that is carried. And that takes us to our closed session. If I can have a mover and seconder, resolve that pursuant to Section 239(2)(a), (b), and (d) of the Municipal Act 2001 as amended, the next portion of the April 28, 2022 regular council meeting will move into closed session to discuss the security of the property of the municipality or local board, personal matters about an identifiable individual, including municipal or local board, employees, and labor relations or employee negotiations. A mover and seconder? Councillor Wells and Councillor Foster, all those in favor? And that is carried. Okay, we are back from closed session. We have a motion that Committee of the Whole confirm the direction provided in closed session to the Manager, Human Resources pertaining to labor relations. A mover and seconder, please. Councillor Foster, Councillor Kinney, all those in favor? And that is carried. That Council confirm the direction provided to the planner in closed session pertaining to a personnel matter. A mover and seconder. Councillor Wells, Councillor Kinney, all those in favor? And that is carried. And the Committee of the Whole received the verbal update report from the CAO provided in closed session pertaining to beachfront negotiations for information. And further, the Committee of the Whole confirmed the direction provided to the CAO in closed session pertaining to beachfront negotiations. All those in favor? Oh, sorry, mover? Councillor Foster, Councillor Wells, all those in favor? And that is carried unanimously. And with that, we are